Thanks for checking out my video. If you want to learn more from me, I have a lot of classes on Udemy. You can find the links to a lot of those in the description. Alright, so as long as everything's working on my computer's end, we're going to be talking about the goddess, and this is episode 5 in my goddess series. This one is about cycles, rhythm, and rebirth. On a side note, just a little bit of housekeeping, you may see my hand moving over here, and that is because we got a new member of the family over here. This one we found on the full moon in October, and she was screaming under a car, and now she's hanging out with us, hopefully for forever. So they are currently looking to see if she has an owner. She does not have a chip, but this, we're calling her Morgan for now, is a very, very, very sweet, very young little one that we brought home the other night during the full moon. You find a black cat in October? Pretty awesome. She followed us home. Once we found her under the car. She's absolutely adorable. So I figured, maybe I'd make a video with her down here. She doesn't care what you do with her as long as you pet her. Anyways, so back to talking about the goddess. And we'll see how good she does being around the computer. So, the goddess moves in circles, not straight lines. If you think femininity, we're talking about cycles, right? She's the waxing and waning of the moon, the turning of the seasons, birth, death, and rebirth. The first story of death and rebirth, as it were, is the story of Inanna. Of course, later on, she basically gets Dumuzi to go through the same thing. But yeah, that's originally her story. You can even look at the story of Taliesin from Celtic myth, but Saradwin is the one that creates that story, that makes that happen, because Taliesin gets a bit of the Awen cauldron on him, and he freaks out because she's like, "What are you doing?" He runs off. She eventually chases him, and both of them transform into a bunch of different animals. She eventually consumes him, and then he comes back out of her as Taliesin, so he's reborn. You find any of these rebirth and resurrection myths originally start with the feminine, or have a very, very huge part of it being of the feminine. The feminine is the initiator. So, when you align with her rhythm, your magic stops fighting against life and starts flowing against the current of life and starts flowing with it. So, you got to think of things happening in cycles. Lots of things have their season. You go to a job, you enjoy it, and then, it eventually burns itself out. Same thing with relationships, or even habits, or, any number of things in life. They have a beginning, a maturation, a waning, and a death, So you got to start thinking that nothing is permanent. I love this couch, I love this tapestry, I love my house and stuff, but things are constantly under repair. I'm constantly under repair and change and stuff like that. When you start to understand that not everything is permanent and everything exists in cycles, and how we have to replace the tires on our car, put gas in the car all the time, get oil changes, all that other stuff. Everything is a cycle. The feminine, being cycles, is everywhere. So the goddess as a timekeeper. Many goddesses are linked to the moon phases, tides, and seasonal cycles. Think about Demeter and Persephone, Hecate, Diana, and Saradwin that I just mentioned. She teaches that time is cyclical, not linear. You ever have the same kinds of things happen over and over? That's the universe trying to teach you something that you haven't quite gotten yet. So you're going to be going through some cycles like that until you learn the lesson, until you are reborn in some way. She teaches that time is cyclical and not linear, and understanding cycles helps you to know when to act, when to rest, when to release, and when to plant. So when you understand what kind of part of the cycle that you're in, if you find yourself where, something just went away, or you're sad or something like that, you can describe that as going through a fall or a winter. And sometimes we got to honor those feelings, but not get stuck in them, and decide what we're going to do when the weather gets warmer. You may not feel like getting up and getting out of bed right now, but eventually you might. or eventually you will, you know, what's that ominous positivity? Things will get better. You cannot stop it, right? You got to understand these cycles. So many people, they get stuck in perpetuity of my life always sucks. If you continue to say that, it will continue to suck. If you understand that there are opportunities that will come along and it will get better and the weather will get warmer and the flowers will start coming out because everything is a cycle, then that's when you're going to start to flow with those cycles and understand where you are. You are not stuck. Okay? Next part. Let's talk about the moon. So, in terms of the moon, that's, the feminine cycle follows the moon. It's 28 days. And what we want to think about is honoring that kind of cycle in our magical workings, in when we are planning on doing things, when we are thinking about doing things, when we are just generally plotting, whether it's magical or mundane. The waxing moon is for growth and building energy, so spells around that are around waxing moons for those purposes. You want to go with that. Then the full moon, culmination or a manifestation. You want to bring something into being like that, or you want to declare a personal change, something like that, especially because waning follows it. If you want to declare a personal change, you can, what's the word I'm looking for? You can contextualize the waning moon that comes after that as a means of everything that you did not declare is now going to be dying away. Does that make sense? And then a dark or new moon is for rest, planting new intentions. Even in Mesopotamian magic, for example, you don't do anything on a new moon because it's dark. The light from the divine is not there, right? Morgan, what you doing over here? She's just chilling on the carpet. She probably wants some more food. She's hungry. I'm trying to get her to come over here. So, aligning spells with lunar phases increases their potency and ease. That's why when you're talking about astrological things like aligning your magic with moon phases and astrological like conjunctions and different signs and whatnot, you're getting that extra little oomph of energy that you don't normally get. Now, do you always have to align with these kinds of things? Not necessarily. Some witches work better, or magical practitioners, they work better by just going off the cuff. That's how I tend to do it, but I'm leaning more into this kind of thing because the more that you align yourself with the natural cycles, the more the energy is going to flow with you. It's like rowing a boat with the current. The current's going to make you go faster than you just rowing on your own, right? So, seasons as sacred drama. You find this in a lot of different myths and stuff that have the feminine in them. Spring is the birth and renewal, about fertility. You have the Akitu festival in Mesopotamia where that was their new year. And you have the big drama that's played out to reenact the gods of Inanna and Dumuzi doing the sacred marriage stuff to bless the land for good crops and things for that year. Summer is fullness and passion. It's a celebration. Look at all the fruit. Look at all the the fruits that showed up because of what happened in the spring. Then autumn is harvest and letting go, where that's why we have Thanksgiving. Things start to slow down. You can reflect over all the cool things that you did over the vacation. Like I went to Cape Cod once for 3 days, once for 1 day. That was a fun day trip. And as a result of that day trip, due to a bunch of synchronicities, that's how I got Morgan the cat. And we even went to England for 11 days. Then winter, death and stillness, gestation, staying inside. What are you gestating? What are you letting go of? You can kind of, I like this context of the death part with the way that our Gregorian calendar is, because in winter, what do we have? We have New Year's, and we have New Year's resolutions. What are you going to do different starting January 1st? And then maybe not give it up by January 15th, right? Where you can say, this stuff that's been going on, I'm going to let it die. Because I'm going to get up. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to get up earlier. I'm going to go to the gym, right? What are you giving birth to? Anytime that you have a death kind of thing, think of what you're going to replace it with. Because when you get rid of something, when you have a void, saw how the new cat's black? She's a void. When you have a void, what's the new stuff that's going to fill that void? Speaking of which, my cat Teeny passed away a couple of months ago, and we've been saying we were going to wait to get a new cat, and then this one shows up. The void filled the void. All right. The benefit. Practicing with the seasons helps. It keeps your magic and inner life in harmony with the natural world. So you might even want to align spells for bigger picture stuff, like greater transformation, overall big picture life things around the seasons. So plan in the winter. Let go of things in the winter. Start making little moves towards your bigger goals in the spring, and then really hammer at those goals and try the bigger things in the summer. See what I mean? All right, death and rebirth mysteries. Many goddess myths, Inanna, Persephone, Isis, Kali, involve descent, death, and renewal. Inanna, that's self-explanatory if you've watched this channel for any amount of time, where she goes into the underworld to visit her sister Ereshkigal. She gets killed. She gets brought back to life by Enki, who sends two elementals down there, makes the food of life and water of life, Eucharist and wine. And then she's reborn, and then her husband's partying, not doing the proper ritual stuff, given the fact that she died, so she sends him to the underworld, and he comes back up every 6 months. It explains the seasons, and you have him going through basically death and rebirth every 6 months because he wasn't following the rules. Persephone, same kind of thing, with going down to the underworld and coming back up and swapping places with Demeter. So, Hades has to spend 6 months out of the year with his mother-in-law. Sounds like fun. Isis with the death of Osiris, and she facilitating his resurrection-ish, or his rebirth as Horus, right? So these stories teach us that endings are not failures, they're initiations. You know, when we go through something really, really hard that gets us to be super sad and down and stuff, that is like a death, in a way, right? So the benefit. Working with these cycles helps you face challenges with grace and courage instead of resistance. When you understand that the gods went through this stuff and we can go through this stuff too, even contextualize the things of what things have happened to you that have felt like a death, and then you've recovered from it. Everybody's had one of those things, whether it be a medical thing or a breakup or a really, really difficult time in your life. Some part of your life died away, and now what's here? And I love the phrase of like, if you have depression and you're still here, you're not struggling with depression. Depression is struggling with you. Same kind of context. So, rhythms of the body, the next part. Goddess energy connects us to the bodily rhythms. So, menstrual cycles, breath, sleep, hunger, even, when you understand your own cycles of, I feel the best during the day at this time. You can understand, like, hey, my mornings are really, really good for X, Y, and Z. Or during certain seasons, like people with seasonal depression, you can understand, like, this is my best time of day, this is my best time of year, this is my best time of the month for getting these things done. I should have my lady make a video on, like, the menstrual cycles and how the feminine can be honored by both masculine and feminine, about how to honor cycles when it comes to the way that it works with your body and when to do certain things. Maybe I can motivate her to make a video on that. And so, honoring your body's natural cycles, like sleep, get enough sleep, even eating and stuff. You don't want to mess up your cycles by eating too close to bedtime. Things like that. Understanding when you're good during the day. Some people are morning people. Some people are night people. Some people are permanently exhausted pigeons, right? It allows you to be more grounded and energetically resilient for magical work. So when is your perfect time of day for magical work? For me, it tends to be right in the morning. Speaking of which, I have a magic for hire I got to do probably after this. So the magician as gardener. It's our next point. The goddess teaches patience. Seeds take time. Think of the natural cycles of things. You seed, it grows, you harvest. Sometimes with some plants it takes longer than others. In the masculine side of things is, I want this thing, I go and get it. The feminine teaches us that things take time to grow, so keep that in mind. Magic isn't instant gratification. If it was, it would be painfully obvious and everybody would be doing it. It's planting seeds in fertile soil and letting the cycles unfold. So I can't tell you how many times with magic for hire situations I've had people say, how long does it take for the spell to take effect? If you could put math on it, it would be scientifically provable, and then it wouldn't be occult and spiritual, and people wouldn't make fun of it and other stuff like that, right? And you also have to tend to the garden when it comes to magic. So like when you do any kind of spiritual work, you have to maintain positivity. Any doubt in your mind, in your energy, in your subconscious can screw up spell work. It can screw up manifestation. You have to and you can have doubts and stuff and work on them. But doing a spell and then wondering if it's going to work, oh man, I'm really hoping that my magic works, and it's not going to make it work, right? Where was I? So, the benefit of all this is it creates sustainable, lasting results instead of quick fixes that collapse. The feminine side of magic, if you want to think about it, that's the bigger works. Masculine is straight to the point. Sunlight comes from up there, hits, boom, stuff gets warm, right? The feminine teaches us that it takes time. So whenever you're doing magic, get an idea of how long, especially with acting in accord with the real world action you're going to do. If you want to do a spell to gain a particular thing, what do you have to do to help that energy manifest in the world, right? And then plot that out. Same thing with planting a garden. What do you need to do, right? You got to dig up the weeds. You got to get the soil. You got to get this. You got to get that. When do you have to water it? Is it going to rain today? Alexa, turn off. Is it going to rain today? Because if it's not, that means I got to water the plants. If it is, okay, cool. How much rain is it? Do I still need to water the plants? Stuff like that. You got to nurture your spell work, right? There's doing it and forgetting it, but the forgetting it part is more don't worry about it. You still have to nurture it, whether it's like putting energy into a sigil every single day or something like that. Okay, next part, practical and experiential suggestions. So I have an idea. Track the moon phases for 1 month and align with one simple practice with each. So you can light a candle for growth on the waxing moon, write a release list on the waning moon. So during the waxing moon, what are you trying to build up? During the waning moon, what are you trying to get rid of? You can write lists for both. You can work on both. So maybe during the waxing moon, what are you trying to improve on? And then in the waning moon, focus on what you are trying to get rid of. You can even do this from a practical, mundane sense. The waxing moon, maybe go around and do any of those chores and different stuff around your house that need to get done. Like, I got to replace this light bulb over here. And, I could be repairing a couple things around the house. Then during the waning moon, what kinds of things do you have sitting in your junk drawer? Or the chores that you don't really do that maybe you could pull the refrigerator out and sweep underneath it. That kind of stuff. So start contextualizing your life around cycles to get more of an idea of feminine cycles and feminine energy, right? Then a journal prompt here. What cycle are you currently in? Are you in birth? Are you birthing something? Are you in fullness? Are you experiencing something awesome that's there? Are you in harvest where you're collecting the benefits of something? Are you in stillness right now where you're just waiting? Where are you? And then you could even start with making a seasonal altar. So it's Halloween season right now. It's actually October 9th when I'm making this. I mentioned Halloween and you show up. Anyways, and, get your decorations out and start making a seasonal altar. Decorate it for Halloween, right? And then you could do the same thing for Christmas time. Then you can do the same thing for spring and whatnot. And now my arm is going to be stuck for the next 10 minutes or God knows how long. If I could free my arm, that'd be great. Let's angle it a little better so you can see the little fluff ball right here. All right, seasonal altar. So then, when you live in rhythm with the goddess, your life flows instead of fights. And as her rhythm flows through you, something awakens in your body. You begin to feel her presence as vitality, sensuality, and sacred embodiment. That's what we'll explore in the next episode. So, what cycle do you feel the most connected to right now? And how does it mirror what's happening in your life? So, which words resonated with you more about the different cycles that I'm talking about? Where do you think you are? Yeah, there we go. So, I just wanted to read through all of my notes. Let me know if you guys think Morgan here is cute. And let me know what cycles you're in right now and your experience with working with the different cycles of the moon, and maybe your daily cycles, and any of those other good things. I'm going to keep petting this cat for a little while because chances are I'm not going to be allowed to get up. I will see you guys next time. Good hunting.